Welcome to Growing Resiliency for Aquarium and Zoo Employees, or GRAZE. Today, I am joined by Hannah Fullmer, who is our Director of Supportive Services at GRAZE. And for those who don't know me, I'm Shannon McKenney, and I'm our Proactive Programming Director. And what we are going to discuss today is to bring some clarity and awareness around some of these services that GRAZE provides, particularly in the realm of peer support. And so, Hannah, you are here to describe a little bit more in detail about what peer support is and what it isn't.
Thank you, Shannon. I know typically we start with the positive side of things, but I do want to start with just identifying some of the area, like you said, what peer support is not. So what we bring as our GRAZE representatives, for the most part, we do have a licensed clinical social worker that does work with us. However, if we're in the realm of peer support, we are not therapists, we are not counselors, we are not psychotherapists, and the services that we provide are not meant to be a substitute for any kind of those types of services. What we are specially trained peers from within the zoo and aquarium industry. So our average experience between all of our peer participants has been about 15 to 16 years. We have experience with direct line, frontline animal care. That's boots on the ground, right next up with the animals, direct. We also have experience in the veterinary technician areas, as well as chief operating officers and upper level management. So we've kind of touched all the realms. And me specifically, my experience comes from pretty small institutions. So not only was I a frontline zookeeper for many years, I also kind of touched into just about every department there is. I was part of education. I did guest services. I've done maintenance. I've done lawn care. I was in the vet area for a little while as well. So again, that peer just really means that we've been not in your exact shoes, not in your exact position, but we at some point have probably been there standing next to you.
And when we think about that definition of what a peer is, why would peer support be a beneficial service to someone?
Well, so I shared this during our resiliency summit, and I know not everybody was a part of that, but if you weren't, I suggest signing up for it this year because it's wonderful. But I did share during our resiliency summit that my path specifically has been one that was pretty healthy with regard to mental health. I sought therapy multiple times throughout my career. It was not something that was stigmatized within my family. So I felt I had a really good relationship with mental health. And then a critical incident that I experienced led me to a mental health situation with a peer. And having that peer there was such a different exposure, I guess, for me, that she spoke my language. This person that I was with, I didn't have to explain why that lock mattered to me, why food being in the wrong dish or being somewhere that was mislabeled or seemingly innocuous details mattered. And she wasn't hijacked by the fact that what I was talking about could be cool. A lot of times when we tell people that we work in zoos or we work in aquariums, that's all they hear. And it made me reflect that some of the times that I had sought therapy, one of the first questions that they have for you is, so what brings you in today? And I start with, well, I'm a zookeeper. And they'd get hijacked by that. That all of a sudden became the focus of oh, that must be so cool. You must love it so much. And I would have to backpedal and kind of slow them down and say, that's why I'm here. And, I don't want to have to spend my mental energy educating someone at a point where I'm looking for support. So by reaching out to a peer first, or when I'm within my mental health journey, it made it so that when those moments came up as stuck points or emotional points, I could reach out to somebody who gets it. It's not a distraction for them. And I felt like they were there with me. It was a very different type of connection.
Definitely. And that is some of the feedback that we get very frequently is that we get it. The
Mhm.
peers that are part of our support team, like you said, understand the language. We don't have to spend time on, okay, what does SOP mean? Or what is a protocol? Or when you
Mhm.
said the word husbandry, what were you referring to, right? So that is really key. Now, when would you recommend that someone look for peer support? As we mentioned, what it wasn't.
Mhm.
So, when would someone seek out or benefit from peer support?
Loaded question. I feel like everyone could benefit from at least a little bit of peer support, right? I mean, within our own institutions or within our career experience, we find people like we find our people, we find our pack, we find our herd, we find our flock, whatever that is for us. The people who resonate with us, that things just kind of click, right? We feel that we get along with them, and then we not realizing that they are peers within our industry that are part of our community. The problem, problem's a strong word. I think the difference that stands out is that not of all of our peers are trained the way that our peer response team is. So sometimes if we reach out to our peers too frequently in an unfacilitated way, it doesn't necessarily yield positive results or action items and goals to move through an event or to process and progress. We just kind of end up stuck in that negative space. So why I say that everybody could benefit at least from just reaching out once, having one meeting, or starting the conversation. We even do small group sessions as well. Is just to start to change and reframe the way that we think about it when we're speaking to our peers, when we're speaking to one another, that we actually have to put some effort in. I'm sorry, because I know our job's exhausting and I know it's really, really hard to do, but we do have to make a conscious effort to try to reframe our thinking from maybe there's some old beliefs and biases that are influencing us in a negative way. Maybe it's the overall culture of our institution that we're letting have influence or control over us rather than us choosing how we want to engage with it. So having an outside perspective along with the specialty training that we bring starts to really reframe and change how we start to look at these potential roadblocks, challenges, obstacles, whatever it is that you're going through at that time. But most of us can probably identify that we're carrying some extra weight, whether that is grief and loss of an animal, maybe not even from a death. It could be that animal was transitioned to another institution for a breeding recommendation. It could be grief that our person, our con-specific buddy has moved to another institution. Maybe they've left the field, maybe they've stepped aside, but like someone who we really connected with as an individual. That's a loss that we're feeling. It could be frustrations with communication. We have to relearn how to talk to one another sometimes. It can just be the overall cumulative stress of it. We operate at such a high level with such high frequency. We don't often realize that we've not come down for a really long time. And then all of a sudden, it can feel like we're dropping off of a cliff when we give ourselves that permission to kind of switch off of autopilot, look at ourselves a little bit more. Oh, I think I'm drained. I think my cup is empty. I need some self care. But the gap from where we're operating to where our previous threshold was is so extreme. So instead of it being such a significant drop, what we try to do is kind of create some tiers, some steps in that process. Again, whether if you're looking to kind of I need to bring it down a little bit. Or I've been down here and I don't like being down here anymore. I want to get back to where I felt good. Again, that can seem a little overwhelming to make a jump like that. So instead, it's identifying what's influencing us, what are we carrying with us in a way that that person is, we are not judgmental. I could tell you stories of, having such a bad day. I've had to oh, I don't know, I'm cursing at a broom handle because it broke, or like that's the thing that sets me off, or like, you find that hose that just has that kink in it that somebody didn't take that extra time to roll the right way. And it can seem like such a menial thing, but that's what tips you over. But you don't have, like, we're not going to judge you for that. That's, oh yeah, you just saw Shannon's face. She's like, oh, that speaks to me. So by having that relationship and being able to create approximations, like we do with many of our animals, and being able to draw some of the parallels, we are excellent at providing animal husbandry and welfare. So we have to start to transition that to recognizing, we want to provide the best for our animals, which means that we have to be able to show up as our best. But if we're not in that space, we need to give ourselves time to heal and space to recognize that we're just not feeling our best right now, and that's okay. So I really like to think of these peer support services as time and space for healing, whether that's healing mental injuries, healing from grief and loss, healing from cumulative stress, that reframing, just starting to reframe our thoughts, creating our approximations, developing action items. But it can really, the experience that I've seen is if people reach out sooner than when they're at their lowest, the recovery is a little bit easier. Recovery is always possible, but that journey can just take a little bit longer if we've let things sit for longer. If that answers the question. I think I drifted a little bit when I started thinking about that hose.
Again, though, that goes back to the peer side of it, right?
Mhm.
Those moments that many of us have found ourselves in that may be similar or resonate on that deep level. Now, you mentioned peers, right? And that we definitely have peers all over the place. But what training makes our trained peers or any support peers that are truly trained different than talking with your colleague or your teammate or whatnot? What sets our peer support apart?
Sure. So, I mean, the training that all of us have, everyone is mental health first aid certified. I'm actually a mental health first aid instructor for adults. We are also certified through the International Critical Incident Stress Foundation in assisting individuals in crisis, group crisis intervention, and psychological body armor. So, what that training, all of those trainings really provide is the opportunity for us to build strengths in compartmentalizing. That's what really resonated with me because as a peer, the goal is to create connection and empathy, but the goal is also not to make it about us. We are here for the other person. We are providing time and space for them. So it was almost training and learning how to create that relationship without turning the conversation around too much. It also gave us the skills of recognizing when we are within and when we are outside of our skill set. So, as I said in the beginning, we are not therapists, we are not counselors. It is not a substitution for that. So, if we are in a peer support session and it is starting to drift into that realm, not only do we have the skills to recognize that drift, but the skills to, again, bring the conversation back to within our training. Because we're not there to diagnose. We are not there to provide really true services about building or strengthening in a way that would reflect to that diagnostic side. It's more, we talk about self-care strategies. We talk about some tools and strategies that have worked for us and ones that we have heard about helping other people. And we can create common language and educate about some areas. But that training helps really identify our lane so that we know to stay in it. It is all about creating that psychological safety of a space, ensuring that the person that we're talking to knows and understands that we are confident in our skills to the point that we are confident to tell you when we are not the right fit either. And sometimes I think recognizing when that change has to be there is beneficial as well. I've certainly experienced it, like I already shared with some of my therapists' history. When I went in and said I was a zookeeper and I could tell that person was too distracted by that, I had to go find a new therapist. So if we end up providing someone with peer support who thinks that this is the right tool for them at this point in time, but we recognize from our training that they need something a little bit more. Maybe the emotions are a little too strong or heavy, or they run a little too deep, or we're reaching into feeling out of control of our emotions. Then we again, that training helps us reel it back in and then redirect. And as I said earlier too, we do also have a licensed clinical social worker that is associated with GRAZE. And while her main history is not in the zoo and aquarium industry, she has been assisting in zoo, aquariums, and the veterinary industry for more than 15 years as well. And she does act alongside of us. So we maintain that peer relationship. So she's been learning our language over time, but she's very comfortable working with us as well. So sometimes there is that stigma around mental health where we're not really ready to speak to a clinician, but having a peer there with you, we can help to bridge that gap. We can help create that space of, if you say SOP or protocol and that licensed clinician doesn't understand what that word means, you don't have to worry about explaining it. I'll do it because I'm in the right headspace to do so for you. So with that training, not only I think does it help us know what we are not capable of, but it does help to identify the clear, again, lane that we're going to occupy. We're going to help to identify what it is that's influencing you. We may help to unpack just a little bit of those initial thoughts and feelings, and then to try to develop and reframe tools and strategies to progress, move through, and grow. Because we're all about, right? This is just the healing process. But once we heal, what's next? One of the things I think we hear frequently in our industry is that we all recognize cumulative stress. We all recognize compassion fatigue. We are starting to hear these words more and more and more. So the awareness is on the rise that we are impacted by these things. What we don't have a lot of experience with so far is now what? Which I think is a lot of where those peer support sessions spend a lot of time is, okay, I see this, I recognize it, I feel it, now what? And as a peer, knowing how the industry works, knowing how we might have to talk to our coworkers, knowing what species we work with, understanding a lot of what goes into our unique industry, we really spend a lot of time on that. Now what?
Definitely. And keeping in mind that the services that we're providing are from the framework that a lot of first responders and military utilize. So we're not necessarily creating something brand new. We are taking something that already exists and we are translating it to our industry specific. My last question is, okay, so someone recognizes that this could be a helpful tool. How do they get started? What do they need to do in order to set up a peer support session or find us, all of that?
Easy peasy on our website. You can reach out through our Facebook page. You can reach out through our website to contact us. It's as easy as dropping a quick email, and the email does not need to contain anything, any private or personal information other than, here's my name. These are the days of the week that work for me, the times that work for me. This is what time zone I'm in, because we're all in different time zones. And simply sharing the fact that you are interested in learning more about peer support, or you feel the need for peer support, you want to talk to someone about peer support, anything. That email or that contact us gets responded to typically just within a couple of days. And we roll right into scheduling or discussing through email, just short, brief. Again, making sure that the understanding and awareness is there of what we are and what we are not. And then working on setting it up. So within that, we do suggest sometimes it's only one session that we need to just kind of iron some things out, address some things, get some goals organized. Sometimes it's upwards of 4 sessions, but we do cap it at 4 sessions in an effort to kind of continue to promote that this is not a substitute for true services, that we will help with the process. But if at the end of that, we're still feeling a certain way, then maybe with our experience and knowledge of supportive services available outside of peer support, we could suggest a direction to look in, or again, give language or statements or phrases to reach out to your, whether it's your insurance company or your institution's employee assistance program, Sometimes it's just educational information that we can share that's going to help put you on the right road to your individual recovery. But just reach out. The worst that could happen is you feel better. You're taking that first step to show up for yourself. So even if it's really scary or intimidating, um, these are the people who you're going to be talking to. It's your peers. It's people from that again have been standing next to you. I've been in the mud. I've been in the trenches, and I'm here to represent the fact that you don't have to stay there, and that you're not alone. So let me be there with you. Let Shannon be there with you. Let Erin be there with you. Any of us. We recognize the importance of peers because we've also provided each other with peer support when activating moments or things come up for us. And we have to start to normalize these conversations in our industry. And we have to remove that stigma and support one another. So if this is how we start, and then we're ready. So if you're ready to start, just reach out.
I love that. And yes, and in order to reach out, our Facebook or our Facebook page is Growing Resiliency for Aquarium and Zoo Employees. Our website is www.zoomentalhealthsupport.com. And then our email address is GRAZEE. Yes, there are two E's. zoomentalhealthsupport.com. Or if you go onto our website, you can find the contact us space and send it through that as well. So that's a couple ways to get a hold of us. Thank you, Hannah, so much for giving us some clarity and awareness around the peer support tool and service that GRAZE offers. And hopefully you'll find this helpful. We're working to do more of these so that as you're on your journey of recovery, you can find the tool that works best for you. If you have questions, again, reach out to us and we can help point you in the right direction, give you the clarity that you need to start on that recovery journey. Have a wonderful rest of your day.